You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias, how was your weekend?
Oh boy, how was my weekend? It was good. It was good. It was pretty chill, which is nice because I'm in that place now where like my book is done and I'm kind of getting back to some of the stuff that I had to kind of push to the side. So for me, that means like being able to kind of jump back into some of the other investigations I was working on, following up with witnesses and just generally making myself more available for that kind of stuff, which has been nice because that's sort of my bread and butter, right? Like that's why I do this. You know, I didn't get into it for being on television or even writing books necessarily. It was to interact with people and actually go out and do stuff. So it's been nice to feel like I have time for that again, which is cool. Otherwise I did watch a documentary on Jerry Springer. There's another Jerry Springer documentary. I should say. Yeah. But it's so short. It's on Netflix. It's only 2 episodes. And I was so disappointed because I was like, we need 10 to 15 episodes. You know, I feel like minimum to cover everything I want to see in a Jerry Springer documentary. But it was fine. You know, I enjoyed it. It just, I wish that it was longer. I also watched, what is it called? It's the Kings of, what is that town that Elvis is from? Hold on, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Tupelo. That's right, Missouri. Is it Tupelo? Tupelo? I think it's Tupelo. Anyway, Kings of Tupelo is another documentary about, and this is actually kind of within our wheelhouse, about this conspiracy theorist who was kind of sort of right about the like illegal or black market organ trade in funeral homes.
Oh, nice.
But he's also an Elvis impersonator, and so is his brother, and they have a weird feud. Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's got like some Twin Peaks vibes. So check that shit out. If
very unhinged,
if
it sounds.
it was quite a ride. I really enjoyed it. It's only 3 episodes. It only needs to be 3. So like that was perfect. It's also on Netflix. So anybody who likes super weird shit should watch that. Man,
I'm gonna check that one out for sure. I mean, it's got organ trafficking. It's got Elvis. I mean,
what else do you want, really?
Family drama. You know,
exactly.
No, that's awesome. We covered. We did an episode on organ trafficking at one point, which is, you know, it is a super interesting topic because there is a lot of stuff that's not true about it, right? A lot of urban legends. But if you actually kind of dig into like different countries, I don't know so much about the US, but you know, it is a thing. I mean, it does happen. People are harvested for their organs, not in the way that you would think, definitely not in the way of like factory farming or anything like that. But,
right.
You know, you can sell your own shit if you want to in different countries. And that's kind of cool, I guess. Not giving anybody any ideas, but it happens.
I guess. I don't think cool's the right word because I just can't imagine anybody doing that as like, wow, you know what? This really is the best thing for me. As opposed to being like, oh God, the world is such a fucking dumpster fire that I need money desperately, and this is the only way I can get it, which is just sad. You know, like, I don't want anybody to be in that position.
people are like, oh man, organs go for this much. And at the time that we had investigated it, or I investigated it, I should say, and looked into it, they're really not worth that much. I mean, to make it worth it, I think a kidney was like 15,000. And it's like, that's not that much money, you guys. Like,
That's not going to cover the fucking medical expenses you would incur just for having one kidney, probably.
right.
So.
I mean, it's right. That's not worth it. You could do other cool things like, go to a sperm bank or go to be an egg donor, right? Those are different and they're a lot more lucrative with a lot less, issues behind it. Or even donating
Right.
plasma. That's a thing that you can do to help people and you can make money doing it. You get it's like $200 a month just to donate plasma.
There you go.
If that's your thing. So if you really want to sell parts of your body for money and not in a sexual way, you can do that.
Okay.
But
Well, there you go. You heard it here. I don't know, maybe first, but you heard it here. That's what's important.
you heard it here.
All right. Well, how was your weekend?
It was pretty similar. I watched the new season of The Curious Case of Natalia Grace came out. Natalia Grace being that girl who was a Ukrainian orphan, and the family did not believe that she was a child. They believed she was an adult, so they went through the legal system to have her legally re-aged. And come to find out, they finally did DNA testing on her when she was in her 20s, and she was a child the whole time. So,
Why
anyway,
didn't they just cut her open and count the rings?
that's what someone said. Can't we just cut one of her legs off and count the rings?
Horrible.
But that saga continues. Just to see, what her life is up to these days. Unfortunately, she ended up getting preyed upon by a different family, a totally different family that she thought
I'm
was great, but
sure.
they're a cult. So she has now escaped that. I hope that Natalia does better in life, which is now with
horrible.
another different family. So
Why did they think she was an adult? Was it okay? Let me guess, and if I'm right, then fuck these people. What did it have anything to do with the fact that she was from like Eastern Europe and had been through some shit? And
Well,
so they just
probably.
misinterpreted like her overall attitude and how she carried herself and all that trauma as just being older than she was.
It's a really weird situation. So she's a very sickly girl. She has a very special type of dwarfism. So already, like she's going to be small. So even if she was older, she's still going to be child size because she's
Okay.
child size now. But it just seemed like maybe the wife had adopted her because she has a biological son, and he's like a genius. And the mom like wrote a book about her genius child and then made a bunch of fucking money off of it. Right. So we think the idea was that the mom thought that she could take this poor Ukrainian dwarf girl and turn her into like a super genius and maybe profit more. And then it just turns into a whole thing of abuse. It is a really interesting story, and the whole
check it
thing
out.
is like, what the fuck? Yeah, I'd like to cover it one day on the show. It's fucking weird. And
Yeah, that sounds pretty wild. And
it's-
I mean, that poor girl though, obviously.
yeah, no, she's gone through hell. The poor, and still even now as an adult, because there are people that still don't think that she was a child, because like they re-aged her and then they went and dumped her off in her own apartment somewhere at the age of when she was really 9, but they had her like set it like in her 20s, and she's just a little 9-year-old girl living by herself. It's a crazy story.
That's wild. Yeah.
If you don't know about it, check it out. The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. I think it's on HBO Max, Discovery Plus. If you do that type of thing, it's somewhere you can find it.
Yeah, that's all the same thing now.
Yeah, no, like I said, we should cover it sometime. It's super interesting. So I watched that, but mostly I've been digging through these Indrid Cold reports, and oh boy, I got stuff to say about it. So I put a call out on social media, talking about, I'm looking for anybody who's claimed to have had contact with Indrid Cold.
Sure.
And I've had a bunch of hits. Now, I've had a lot of people just tell me the same stuff over and over again, which, good for you guys. I appreciate it. I know about it already, thank you, but I appreciate the fact that y'all are looking out for me. So that's awesome. But, did I get any reports? And one person asked, like, why are you asking this? Do you believe that there are people that have had contact with Indrid Cold besides the Darren Burgers? Yes and no. So I've definitely come across obscure stories of people having encounters with these, people like Injured Cold, right? Not necessarily Injured himself, but definitely carrying on lifelong relationships with people from outer space.
Uh,
Again, not necessarily Injured. And I can't say for sure whether or not, I mean, it could be Injured just by another name, but also it could be completely unrelated to each other. I don't know. But most of the reports that I get are people who describe this very specific looking entity. And I will go on record and dispel the rumors. People are describing seeing a creepy grinning man.
uh,
And I hate that. I absolutely hate, thanks, Keel, that this has been intertwined with the Indrid Cold lore. Indrid wasn't a creepy, weird, grinning man. He was just a guy. Like, there was nothing, imposing or threatening about him when Woodrow Amber met him for the first time, allegedly. You
right.
know, the weird grinning smile, I don't know where that came from. Keel got another reports of a weird guy, basically from two teenagers, I think in New Jersey or New York or one of the new states, and
Right.
kind of ship that with Injured Cold, and it's weird because there's no correlation there at all. So, not to say I appreciate everybody's perspective. I appreciate the fact that you entrusted to share your stories with me. But what you're describing, I believe you had this weird encounter. It's just not the same guy. I don't think.
Sure. Well, the human-like entities in contactee cases are not new, and they certainly weren't new in Woodrow Derenberger's time.
Right.
And some of the hallmarks of those cases were the relative normality of the entities involved. Like, they just seemed like they were people from outer space. They were like us, only they had fancy silver ships and wore weird fucking jumpsuits, and sometimes they spoke with their mind. But otherwise, you'd pass them in the grocery store and you wouldn't think twice. So yeah, the fucking grinning man. Where did that come
Yeah.
from? I know it was Keel. I think it something he put in the Mothman prophecies, um, as like another instance of somebody seeing like a weird person or something.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I mean, he was kind of talking about Keel, and then he like tied it together to that encounter with the two boys, and it's like, okay, well, they don't. I mean, what's the correlate? Did the guy with the two boys say, "Hey, I'm injured cold"? I mean, he didn't, according to Keel.
No,
So why did he tie them together? Well, I don't know. I guess the same reason why Keel ties a lot of shit together that doesn't go together. But who am I to judge?
just making stuff up. Yep, throwing everything at the wall, seeing what
Not
sticks.
John Keel. Are you serious? Not
I
that
know
guy.
people know how I feel. So it's fine. Anybody who's going to get upset by that is already upset about it. As far as as far as their relationship with me is concerned.
Yeah, they already know. Oh, okay. Well, that's perfect timing because that's all I had to say about the Indrid Cold sightings. Of course, if I have anything super interesting to share with you guys about those sightings, maybe some of the ones that I got about the Grinning Man, I'll post up on the Patreon, patreon.com/Wednesdays Talk. But other than that, nothing groundbreaking yet. So we'll see.
Great.
So anyway, on to some news. I got bad news.
Uh-oh.
I don't have any news.
No news.
I don't have any
Aha.
news.
Well, that's
I
all
came
right.
with
I have a news because, like I said, I've been able to spend more time with like the weird stuff that I have going on. So I do have an interesting report that a woman sent me recently. So this comes from a woman named Linda, who wanted to share with me an unusual experience she'd had while out driving one night in New Jersey. So, according to Linda, around 1989 or 1990, she was returning from a friend's house at around 11 p.m. when she saw something otherworldly. She said that her friend lived just on the other side of Bamber Lake. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's Bamber. So, whatever, people in New Jersey, go ahead and roast me. Um, like the time I mispronounced Meyer grocery store. People in Minnesota got really upset by that. I don't know why. I think I called it like Major or Major. If you put a J in it, I'm going to pronounce the letter. All right, Meyer. Fucking assholes. Anyway. But yeah, so Bamber, I guess. I don't know. It's a lake in New Jersey. I've never been there. I don't know how they say it, but I'm going to say Bamber because it's fun. So anyway, her friend, I guess, lived on the other side of this lake in Lacey Township in New Jersey. And so she was coming home from that, and she had stopped at the intersection of Lacey Road and Phillips Road. And so it's late. She's looking for traffic, and there wasn't any, but she's taking her time, and so she's looking around, and when she does, something catches her eye just above the trees to her left, out kind of over this lake. And she said that it was barely moving and totally silent. And it had colored lights flashing sporadically and some stationary white lights on the underside of this triangular craft. And let's see, she couldn't see the front or back because of the trees, but it was huge. Like she could tell that for sure from her perspective. So she could see portions of the UFO's underside as its lights flashed on, spotting what looked like piping of some kind. But she wondered if these were simply corrugations, like if it wasn't necessarily some kind of piping, but just like a sort of rippled effect in the whatever the hell the UFO is made out of. But as she watched it, then it disappeared. So she's not completely sure how. She said, I'll just quote her directly. She says, then it was gone. I'm not sure how, whether it took off or just dematerialized. So it either moved away so quickly that her eye wasn't able to keep up with it, or, it vanished through some other seemingly otherworldly means. So at the time, interestingly enough, because keep in mind, this was back in 89 or 90, Linda was unaware that anybody else was reporting mysterious triangular craft. So the first thing that occurred to her was not some kind of paranormal sort of phenomenon, right? The first thing that occurred to her was that it was some kind of experimental aircraft, because there is a Navy base nearby in Lakehurst. So it was only like much later that she had heard about other people reporting triangular UFOs. And that's when it occurred to her that that was probably what she had seen. It probably wasn't some kind of enormous, seemingly impossible, military experiment. So now this is something, of course, that has stayed with her, even occasionally resurfacing in traumatic ways. So she told me about an experience she had not too long ago, and I suspect that this really helped inspire her to come forward with this story. She had just watched the first episode of Investigation Alien on Netflix, right? And so the episode was on animal mutilation, and she told me that she was shocked when they interviewed one of the witnesses on the show who described almost to a T exactly what she had seen. And she said that when she saw that, she had this sort of visceral reaction to it. She said her heart was racing. She had trouble catching her breath. She was close to tears. And so that kind of significant impact always stands out to me when somebody reports it, because people aren't likely to make up those kinds of details. I'm not saying that that's proof of anybody's experience, but it is compelling to me to see that kind of emotional response, like that kind of powerful response, because usually when you're dealing with somebody who is hoaxing something, who knows that they're hoaxing something, that is the last damn thing you ever see. I'm reminded of those kids who said that they like kids. I'm sure they're young adults, whatever. Everybody under 30 is a kid to me. But anyway, so the ones from Chicago who like said that they had videotaped, Mothman or whatever flying around. Yeah, and like they, of course, the narrative was, oh, we were terrified. But then you listen to their video and it's all like, oh, I'm scared or whatever, like just goofy joking around, right? Like, yeah, so like that screams hoax, but an actual like significant emotional response, it's difficult to fake, and it's not the kind of serious detail that most people will include if they're just making something up, right? So anyway, I thought that was interesting. But she had another weird experience in the same area that makes this even more fascinating, right? So in the same area, like on Lacey Road, I believe, she said she was about like halfway between Forked River and the intersection where she saw this UFO. She sees this bizarre creature, and this would have been shortly before her experience with the triangular craft. So again, it's late at night. She's headed home, and as she's driving, she sees this thing in the road. And as she gets closer, she sees that it looks like something is coiled, right? Like some kind of long object is coiled on the road. And upon approach, she realized that about 3 feet of whatever this object is was extending up from the coil. And so at first she thinks it's some kind of snake, but that doesn't make sense because it's like eye level with her in her car, And as she kind of slows down and she's passing it, she sees that it was about 5 inches in width and flat, with eyes on either side of where you would expect its head to be if its head is at the end of the part that's extended, right? She said the eyes were about the height of her car window, and it turns and it sort of watches her pass. And she couldn't remember anything like the eyes glowing or anything like that, but like, why would they be? You know what I mean? But she described the creature as like a huge flatworm. She said the body was semi-opaque, but more solid on the sides. And that flatworm thing, in all fairness, that came from me. So she described her experience, and in trying to understand it, I was like, okay, well, what you're describing reminds me of a flatworm. So if you look at like an image of a flatworm, is that similar to what you saw? And she was like, well, that's actually remarkably similar to what I saw. So that's terrifying because flatworms are super gross. And I don't like the idea of a giant one just roaming around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible. It's like an episode of the fucking X-Files. That thing's going to attach itself to you and lay eggs or some shit. But yeah, no, so I thought that was interesting. And I don't know if there's any connection between the creature sighting and her UFO sighting, but this has all of the elements to me of a fascinating set of experiences. Oh, I wanted to mention too, before I get your thoughts on this, one other thing that she was experiencing around that UFO sighting was that she is an artist, and she said that she has this weird block for whatever reason about this UFO, where it's difficult for her to recount the experience, but it's also difficult for her to like draw it. She's never been able to draw this UFO for some reason, which I just thought was a fascinating detail, Wow. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting stuff to me, but what do you think?
So the flatworm thing kind of unlocked a certain creature. I can't fucking find it though. I don't know the name of it. There's like a creature in Japanese folklore that is. It looks very much like a giant flatworm.
Okay.
So, I was trying to look that up, but I can't find it. All of those details are very interesting. I do enjoy the fact that I guess enjoy is a strong word. That she Um, can't really remember the craft all that well. That's really weird.
Well, she can remember the craft. She just can't. The difficulty is in relating it to other people or drawing it, like creating a visual representation. So it's like there's this block preventing her from doing that, I guess, is how she described it. Because the details she had for me, like they were, almost as good as any other UFO witness that I've talked to. Like she knew it was triangular. She knew it had lights. She was describing the texture of the underside of the craft and everything.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if something just kind of recently unlocked it in terms of her being able to talk about it more. But yeah, I just thought that was bizarre. Like she's an artist, but this is one thing that she can't draw.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Well, and it could just be the sight of the creature itself, kind of took away from, like, nothing else mattered at that point in her brain, right?
Yeah, who knows?
Just purged it. Wow, what a neat encounter. But I don't want to see that hanging out outside, I don't want to see anybody's flatworm hanging around.
No, God, no. Like triangular UFO, sure, fine, whatever, all day.
Right.
Who cares? Giant flatworm monster that is going to attach itself to me with its weird sucker mouth and fucking lay eggs in my guts. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I didn't sign up for that. That's
hard pass.
Wow, some good news then. At least you got some good news. It's hard. When the winter time comes around, it's hard to get good news. People just aren't out and about,
No.
They're just not experiencing weird stuff. In the outside world. I guess there's lots of ghost news out there, but I don't really cover that too much. And that's
I do if it's interesting. Yeah. But no, you're right. And we know this about UFO sightings. Like they drop off like precipitously in the winter months because people aren't outside, and if you're not outside, the likelihood of you seeing a UFO goes way down.
I don't know. Even the aliens are like, man, fuck that place. It's cold. I'm not going there.
They're all hanging out in the southern hemisphere, and it's hard enough for us to get news from there. So,
right? They're like, no, fuck this. Like we're going to learn very much today.
Right.
Super interesting stuff to come. Let me start with this. Tobias, what do you know about cattle mutilation?
Cattle mutilation?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, I don't know about as much as anybody. It's certainly been a subject that has been around for the entirety of my life. And as somebody who's sort of interested in weird stuff and who really kind of got their start with UFOs, it's always been on the periphery of everything that I've been interested in. Now, specifically with cattle mutilation, it had something of a moment again within like the past couple years, where you really hadn't heard much about it since like the 80s and 90s. And, literally like dropped off for like 20 years, right? Like you're just not hearing anything about cattle mutilation. And then all of a sudden you've got these like reports out of Oregon, of cattle mutilation again. And then I was seeing like an interesting case out of Florida. And now, you kind of see it here and there. There are more cases out of like Central and South America of all kinds of like livestock mutilation. So yeah, I mean, there's been something of a resurgence of it lately. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. It comes and goes. It never really goes away. It's happening all the time. I mean, I'll say that much. As far as media coverage, that part comes and goes.
Yeah.
It is up in the air, and there are 1,000,001 speculations as to why or what the fuck or whatever it is that's causing this phenomena that seems to be basically anywhere there are farms, right? Anywhere that you have, guess what? Cattle are susceptible to mutilations, I suppose. But what if I told you that cattle mutilations are caused by one entity and one entity only?
I don't know. I'd probably just listen. Like we're friends. If you were a random person on the street, then, I might look at you sideways, but I'd still want to hear what your kooky explanation is.
Well, I'm just trying to be a good salesperson at the moment. I don't believe that it's caused by one entity, but for today, we're going to pretend that it is
Okay.
because that's the way this works. Tobias, what is your history with the Chupacabra?
Oh, we go way back. We are old friends. I went to
Buds.
college with Chupacabra.
Oh, really? Wow. I bet those parties were
Right.
wild.
They were wild.
I mean,
Yeah, a
is
lot
that
of
where
goats.
he got the name Goat Sucker?
I was gonna say a lot of goats were sucked at those parties.
Sucking off all the goats.
Oh, memories. Yeah, no, I like Chupacabra. That's something that I am old enough to have lived through, and was old enough at the time
Oh, yeah.
to see it play out. Now, I wasn't super old. I was a teenager, but I remember the news coverage of Chupacabra at the time when it was happening, because the thing about the 90s was like we didn't have the internet like you have today, obviously. So you had two things. You had tabloids, like Weekly World News or the Inquirer or whatever, and you had like Fox or cable television paranormal shows. So like there wasn't paranormal reality shows, but you would get like fact or
specials.
faked or unsolved mysteries,
Yeah.
something like that, or sightings. That was one that I really liked when I was a kid. So you would get shows like that, and they would be the ones who really got into Chupacabra and those types of subjects. And I watched the shit out of them. I thought that was great. Just fascinating stuff. Like the idea of hidden monsters in our world. That people sometimes encounter. Inexplicable beasts just roaming the countryside is something that has always fascinated me. So, I guess you could say I've been with Chupacabra since the very beginning.
What a childhood you had there, Tobias.
I did. It was great. I had all the G.I. Joes too.
You were the coolest kid on the block. Everybody's coming over to play with Tobias's G.I. Joes and talk about Chupacabra.
I wish I wasn't that kid who had the aircraft carrier. Like, let's not get carried away.
Okay,
like that kid was ridiculous.
You always envied him, huh?
Right?
Everybody did, though. So
it cost like $200 in 1980s dollars.
Right, fucking rich ass kids with their rich ass parents.
Ridiculous.
Anyway,
yeah.
Chupacabra has always been an interesting one for me because me growing up and getting into this stuff, right? This type of thing. Well, and when I say this type of thing, I mean very specifically cryptozoology. Like I can't say that enough. I wasn't a ghost kid. I wasn't an alien kid. I was a cryptozoology kid. And of course, cryptozoology and Chupacabra are friends, right? So, but when I was getting into it, it was already the mangy dog type of Chupacabra.
Oh.
And I was too smart for that shit. I'm just like, these are just dogs. Like, who cares about this? So honestly, I had slept on the Chupacabra for quite a long time because of the mangy dog situation. We'll kind of talk about that, of course. We have to.
See, if you would have gotten into Chupacabra at the advent of like Chupacabra as a thing, then there was a much bigger UFO angle, and that's what hooked me, because that's the shit I love. Cryptozoology is cool. I hope that thylacines are still around. I think that that's neat. I want extinct species to still be around. Obviously, I want new discoveries to be made. But you get me a fucking monster from outer space, and I am hooked. I am into that shit. Inject it right into my veins. Whatever kind of weird ass thing you've got, that's what I want. Weirder the better. And that was Chupacabra.
That's what I grew up to be eventually. I didn't know that at the time, but Anyway, but I just wasn't interested. I'm like, obviously, whatever this is, it's just, people are getting excited about a dog without hair. Like, and that was my stance on it. Like, and so it was uninteresting to me. But now that I am who I am and have learned a little bit, of course, the question in my mind was, well, if this is Chupacabra, then what's this, right? Everybody has seen the classic Chupacabra sketch. I just posted it today on my social media. Well, that's Monday for you guys. The classic. How the fuck do you get? How do you go from that to a dog, like to a canine? And we'll touch there.
Oh yeah.
But let's go back to the beginning, because like I do every Monday, I posted what do people think about the Chupacabra, and overwhelmingly people have commented that they prefer the Puerto Rican Chupacabra, that they want to know what happened to the original Chupacabra. People love that shit too. So why we traded it up for something that wasn't as exciting, I don't know. But let's get into it. Let's get into the origins of the Chupacabra, which I'm going to choose to start in March of 1995. So, big event happened. A big old case of classic cattle mutilation went down. 8 goats were found dead on a property in Puerto Rico. I have read 2 versions of this. Both versions appear everywhere. So I'll go ahead and tell you both versions of what I read about the circumstances surrounding these 8 dead goats.
Okay.
The first one being they had 2 puncture wounds on the side of their neck that went all the way up to their brains, and of course drained of all blood. The second version being 3 puncture wounds on the chest and drained of all blood.
Okay.
I like the 2 puncture wounds up to the brain story better.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like just practical effects in a movie wise, like that would be way cooler.
That would be way cooler.
See, like the brains get sucked out through some kinds. I'm picturing some kind of like dual proboscis or something that's been inserted that just sucks the brains out.
Just some little mouth tubes,
Right.
And because they were very small pinpricks, about the width of a straw, in whatever story you choose. Either way, no other damages to the carcasses. I guess it is carcasses, right? It's only corpses if it's people. Is that true? Is that right?
That's a great question. Yeah, I don't know. I think carcass or cadaver or body or whatever would work fine for a goat or a sheep or whatever.
Can I say goat corpse? Because that sounds
I think
cool.
you can. I mean, like the corpse police aren't going to come to your house and fucking arrest you or anything.
Hold on, there's someone knocking on my door.
I think traditionally corpse is used for human beings rather than other animals. See, and this actually brings up one of my personal pet peeves, which just marks me as a crazy person, is when people say, no, I'm talking about animals, not people. And I'm like, 1, what do you think we are? 2,
right.
Look my dogs, or like look any of my pets in the eye and tell them they're not a person, you monster.
Right. I dare you.
Yeah.
Terrible. Carcass just sounds like, I don't know. It sounds discardable, right? It just sounds, which I guess they're goats. What is this conversation anyway?
Deep thoughts with Tobias and Asherz.
I'm just saying. I prefer to call them corpses. The 8 goats were dead. Okay, they died, and there was no real cause as to explain why they had died, except for these mysterious pinpricks either through the neck or through the chest. Either one. The implication here is that they were drained of all their blood through these pinpricks, which is different from traditional cattle mutilation. Now, sometimes you will have that. Well, post Chupacabra, you have that. But a lot of the cattle mutilation stories, you'll have like missing strange body parts, right? Reproductive organs, tongues is a big one, hearts, things like that. There was nothing like that in this case.
Soft tissue is usually missing, and people will make claims of exsanguination, but you don't often get the puncture wounds that are described in this initial Chupacabra attack.
Yeah. And so that is where we start. Well, then things just continue to get weirder for the, kind of general area. Not all of the sightings or instances took place in the same town, but more and more instances of cattle mutilation had been cropping up all over the place. Sometimes,
Wait. It's not. Is
some
it still
people,
cattle mutilation if it's goats?
well, goats are cattle.
Are they?
Well, yeah,
Does it have
cattle's
to be a
not.
cow to be cattle?
I feel I'm having like deja vu. I'm pretty sure I've had this conversation before. And I'm mostly saying this to buy some time while I Google
I
it.
already
And
looked it up. It's mostly cows. I think livestock would work, like livestock
okay,
mutilation.
okay, livestock mutilation.
Okay,
I guess we'll say
sorry.
that.
I
We'll
just
separate it,
yeah. Okay.
and call it something else. But in particular, you're right. We'll go with livestock because the things that were being killed here were goats most of the time.
Yeah.
There were other instances of other animals being, brutalized or whatever. At one point, there was a cat, I think, that was done. There's been dogs that have been, punctured and sucked
Oh,
dry.
you leave those dogs alone, damn it. Puncture a dog.
Yeah, don't kill the dog. Right. That's a horror movie 101. You don't kill the fucking dog.
No.
Um, but these cases were popping up. And let me tell you, here's how I describe goats, okay? Goats are like they're like cats basically, but they're so much bigger. Like they do whatever the fuck they want, and as like goofy as they are, and like as much as people want to kind of see them as brainless, like they're not just gonna fucking stand around while you suck them off.
I mean, it depends.
Oh jeez. Our
Uh,
Alabama listeners right now are like, yeah, yeah, they
oh
will.
boy. Go ahead. Okay, Alabama listeners, go ahead and direct your hate mail to Ashley Hilt at on Wednesdays We Talk Weird.
I'm just saying, especially, just going back to the original 8 instances where there was
Yeah.
no commotion heard, no struggle heard, or anything like that. Like, goats aren't just going to, like, be chill about you killing them. Like, no
No,
animal is going to be like, this is fine.
they're not plants. No, like
Right.
goats. I mean, I love goats. I think goats are super cool. And the one thing that they are not is like giant pussies. You know what I
No,
mean? Like you don't
no.
want to mess around with goats. So yeah, if they would not have gone quietly if they were being attacked by some kind of predator.
Right. They're just not going to be like, oh, that's cool. It's having a good time right now. you know.
Right.
So as things continue to ramp up, there are. I actually found a neat website. I'll post it for you guys in the comments. Like, there's a neat timeline, which was difficult to come across, and some of the stories are difficult to come across because it's in fucking Puerto Rico. Okay, there's a language barrier, and that makes it a little hard.
Yeah.
But I did find a great website with a great list of a timeline, different cities with different instances of this thing attacking. So you had some people that kind of maybe caught a glimpse of something running away from the scene of the crime. But nobody had really gotten much detail until I think it was August of that year. Maybe it was November. I didn't write it down. I don't know why. When we had Madeline Talentino, who ended up catching the first a real good look at the mystery creature. Okay. So Madeline described seeing this thing as, quote, it looked like a kangaroo without a tail walking on its hind legs like a human. It had 2 thin arms with 3 fingers and 3 toes, large dark eyes, no ears, 2 small holes for nostrils, and feathered spikes down its back. Now, Madeline has gone on to talk to multiple people about this creature because this was something, again, had been going on for months where people are being hit by this thing. Their livestock are being hit by this thing. And the talk of the town is like, well, what the fuck is causing this? Because that particular area of Puerto Rico isn't really known for its predators. And
Yeah. Fair.
that's kind of something that gets written off a lot by a lot of skeptics. Well, they got, animals in the area that could certainly be attacking these animals. And it's like, but like, actually, they really kind of don't. Like, they have snakes and shit. So, but a snake isn't going to, completely suck dry 8 goats. in one sitting.
Probably not. No.
It's just not very likely. Which doesn't mean that predators couldn't have been introduced into the area. We'll speculate later. But anyway, so
Do you want me to tell you what it was?
okay,
It was
go ahead.
UFOs.
Oh, it's definitely
It
UFOs.
was UFOs.
What
No,
the-
it's true. Like, one of the interesting things about this, so you go back to March of 1995, and Madeline comes out and she's talking about seeing this Chupacabra creature, right? This goat sucker, which everybody knows that's what Chupacabra means, right? Like, do we have to say it? I guess I just did. It means goat sucker. Anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Oh, well, shit. You should have just played along, and then everyone would have thought like you were super smart and you already knew it. I know. I do the same damn thing. We're just too honest. That's the problem. But anyway, no, like the same time this is happening, there are massive UFO sightings. So like witnesses were reporting these luminous oval and pyramidal shaped UFOs in the vicinity of the animal mutilation sites. So towns like Cabo Rojo, oh boy, I hope I pronounce this right. Cadovanas, which is actually where Madeline sighting took place. Naranjito. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to just keep mutilating Puerto Rican town fucking names if I continue. Trust me, it was a bunch of different towns in Puerto Rico where people are reporting these weird looking UFOs in the same area as these animals are being mutilated. So, like, for instance, the Rojas family said that they saw a UFO in Barrio Hato shortly before a horse and several goats were found dead of an apparent Chupacabra attack. So from the very beginning, you've got Madeline's description of something that sounds, I mean, in a lot of ways, fairly similar to what people were reporting as aliens. It's got those large black eyes, right? But yeah, it also has weird spikes and shit too. But still, it sounded weird and an alien. And then at the same time, you've got people reporting these UFO sightings in the same area. So these things are happening simultaneously.
Yeah, it was. Well, and that part of it gets so downplayed all the time, and that could be because the the fucking government and the military gets involved in investigating. Because let me tell you something, these livestock killings, like, that shit is not fucking cheap. Like, livestock is very expensive.
Oh yeah, you gotta have insurance.
Well, and they probably don't. It's Puerto Rico in the 90s. I don't know what life was like there.
Sure.
But that's literally your livelihood. Like, so when you have this happening over and over, I mean, by the time we get to the end of the year, they're talking upwards of like 1,000 cases of this. And, that's fucking millions of dollars potentially, depending on what was killed. But it is a very pricey way to go about. So, the officials get involved, police and some government officials, they get involved to try to go hunt this thing down. And that was kind of, where the focus lied. So all these like weird, lights and shit in the sky, nobody cares about that. We have a monster to kill.
Right. Like, there's no way these two crazy things are connected. So let's just ignore the one and we'll go after the other one. You know what I blame it on? Big cryptozoology. Big cryptozoology has always fucking had it out for UFO sightings connected to creature sightings. And if they get a chance to ignore them, they will every fucking time. And that's part of, I think, why the UFO sightings were pushed to the periphery of the Chupacabra story, and especially as it evolved into whatever the fuck people think it is now, in like the American Southwest. people really downplayed the UFO connection and kind of pushed that to the periphery and tried to sweep it under the rug.
No, you're absolutely correct, and we see that happen an embarrassing amount of times within the world of fringe, right? That's not the only instance, but the Chupacabra is probably the most well documented case of this happening. So we'll get there. We'll get there. So, but going back to Madeline and her encounter with this thing, I mean, her clear encounter with it ended up being a huge deal because, like I said, she was kind of the first one that got a real good glimpse at it. But not just her; she actually ended up having a second encounter with this thing. Apparently, it was in her garage in her house, and her husband and one of her coworkers tried to tackle it, and then it ran away. It wasn't having none of that. It did not want to play football. It ran away. And so then they get a good look at it too, and it's exactly as she describes. And so she goes on to then, after the second encounter, she drew like the sketch of it, and that's where the famous sketch of this thing comes from. And then that news starts spreading, not just locally, not just nationally, but that news is going international. Okay, this is now a worldwide. People are starting to know what the Chupacabra is because of Madeline going and giving all these interviews. Sometime within all of her interviews, this is very important. She compares it herself that it looked kind of like the woman creature thing from Species.
Right.
Now, this is, I take issue with this, and we're not going to get into it yet. We will. Well, fuck it. Let's get into it. Why not?
We already mentioned it.
Right. We're already there. Google right now, still, Species. Google it. Google that shit. Okay. That does not look the same. The only thing that's similar is maybe it has like 3 spikes on its back in the movie, right? Even though this thing had spines all the way down. Tobias, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm going to assume that the reason that you have become so incensed is because the lazy, dismissive explanation for this is that she made it up based on having seen the movie Species.
Yeah.
I think that what is likelier, since, as you mentioned, she brought it up, is that she was using the movie to try to help contextualize her sighting, because what she had seen was something that she could not easily describe. And it's something that we see from witnesses time and time again when they see something impossible to their understanding anyway. They will try to relate it to something they have seen before, often an element of popular culture, like a monster from a movie, as a way to just have the words to describe what the fuck they saw that they otherwise would not be able to. So I think that's probably likelier given what we know.
And we've seen other creature descriptions that match better than this match, right? But truth be told, I guess I can't really think of any particular monster movie that even comes close to the thing that she drew.
Yeah, no, I mean there really isn't one. It's definitely not. I've seen Species, and I've seen Species a ton of times because, again, when you grew up in the 90s, your options were limited, and there's a lot of nudity in that movie, and it's also a pretty cool monster movie. So it was in like regular rotation, as far as I was concerned. Like it got watched a lot. And so, yeah, like I'm very familiar with the monster in that movie, and no, it doesn't. The monster in that movie is not like, this little 4 or 5 foot tall, hunched over, spiky looking dude, right? Like there's no mistaking it for that. And nobody in their right mind ever would. I think that there are some common elements maybe. But again, it's not the kind of thing where like you would see the movie and then if you were going to make up a monster based on the movie, like I don't think you would end up with the drawing of the Chupacabra we have. Yeah. Like that shit doesn't make any sense.
It just I mean it brings me back to the first time anybody relayed a creature to me to a movie, and it was the guy who saw a winged humanoid, had the winged humanoid encounter, and he goes, all I could tell you is it looked like Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, I've heard
Now,
that more than once.
right now, I'm not I'm not stupid. So like in my mind, I'm not like, oh, so it was wearing a hat and a trench coat and had that weird
Right.
fucking face and
Yeah.
is driving a car.
Drove that shitty truck everywhere. Yeah.
That's not where my brain goes to. I know exactly what the fuck he means when he says that,
Right.
and this is that kind of case. So yes, a lot of the times her experience is written off because she saw that movie and she just wanted to jump in on the hype. You're right, but then she also had to get her husband and her coworker and her mother in on it because they all fucking saw it too. So okay, whatever. Anyway.
It's fine. It's just say you're not gonna believe it, or just say that you don't believe it and you're not gonna. Just save us all some time and stamp your feet and be like, I'm not listening, and
Yeah,
and
right.
go somewhere else. Like
Right.
it's fine.
And then just stop. There was another particularly strange incident that I wanted to bring up that happened in November of that same year, where this creature had broken into a child's bedroom from the window. And whenever they went to go check out what was going on, well, they saw it, and it was chewing up a teddy bear because he's an asshole.
Aw.
Um, and and then of course they got startled because people were watching it. It doesn't like to be watched while it eats. So it took off through said window, leaving behind two very important things. One, a rancid piece of meat set on the windowsill, and
Okay.
also a bunch of slime.
Gross.
Really?
Well, why eat the teddy bear if you already had that delicious rancid meat?
He needed some fiber because he had meat. That's
I guess. You can get really blocked up. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
good point.
Right, eating all that rancid meat.
Yeah, that's not good for the old colon.
That's what the slime was for. He was constipated. He was making his own slime, right? Trying to get it out.
Oh, now I just feel bad for him.
God, a new low for the show, I think. Poop jokes. Come on now. What is this?
We're better than that. I mean, I used to think the line was Bigfoot's dick, but Chupacabra poop? Come on.
This gets lower and lower. No, it is a really interesting situation, and of course the woman. I think it was encountered by the woman specifically. I don't think it was the couple itself. Again, language barrier. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But she didn't think to like take a sample of the slime. She did clean it up, and I don't know what they did with the piece of meat. I don't want to know what they did with the piece of meat. How about that?
I mean, what they threw it away. What else do you do? They're like, oh shit, I'm not going to let this perfectly good rancid meat go to waste. Like, I doubt they ate it or anything. They're probably like, wow, disgusting. I'm going to throw that away outside.
Right. I mean, if they cleaned up the slime, yeah, they probably threw the meat outside. So who knows? Was the meat a chunk that tore off the chupacabra because it literally broke a fucking window to get to the house? I don't know. Was it something it was holding in its pocket, saving for later? I don't know.
Did they have a teddy bear made out of meat? So many questions.
It was actually the child's piece of meat that he was hiding in the teddy bear for later, and then
sure, like you do, yeah.
And that's why the chupacabra was attacking the teddy bear. It smelled the rancid meat.
Well,
that makes sense, but that is interesting. It's the first and only case that I've seen that mentions this slime substance. So, who knows? Drool, maybe that could have been. Anyway, another one that is here kind of has a physical description, and this kind of shows the discrepancies, and we're kind of going to move into those physical descriptions and their discrepancies. This was a resident that saw it one afternoon in his backyard when it came out of the brush and bit the family dog. The resident, quote, said, "I think it belongs to the monkey family, but it isn't a monkey exactly," he said. "It ran like a monkey and was about 4 feet tall, but it didn't have a tail." And then that's like the extent of the detail that he goes into about the description. But there are a lot of people who describe this thing in very different ways. You have scaly skin, you have furry skin. Sometimes it has wings, sometimes it doesn't. But a lot of people do tend to associate it more with kangaroo than anything else.
Yeah. I just like that one guy, a tailless monkey just ran up and bit his dog. And he's like, fucking Chupacabra. Did you guys see that Chupacabra?
Well, and what's super interesting is there is something referred to as the Chupacabra effect, which is where somebody sees an unidentified animal and will automatically just refer to it as a Chupacabra because that's easy pickings. They just assume that it sucks off goats, right? That's
Like, they have monkeys in Puerto Rico.
they do.
You know what I mean? Like,
They do.
that's there. Yeah, there's native species there that absolutely, it's not impossible for, through accident or predation or something for like a monkey to lose its tail, or maybe you just didn't see the tail. It probably happened pretty fast. But the idea that I think a monkey would bite a dog, I guess, is where I'm going with this. I think under certain circumstances, a monkey would totally bite a dog.
Oh yeah, a monkey would bite it. What are you talking about? Monkeys are you know this. They're fucking vicious.
Yeah, they're little bastards.
If
Adorable
you-
little bastards.
Even the little ones, right? They will fuck you up just because they want to, because it's fun. Yeah, they'll definitely bite a dog. No shit. And then the guy's just like, well, it doesn't have a tail, so it's not a monkey. That's
Chupacabra, I guess. I don't know. It's one of life's mysteries.
But yeah, a lot of people, again, describe this thing so drastically different, which again, we have other creatures that have, drastic differences in appearances, right? You and I both know Mothman, right? There's so many variances of that thing.
Sure.
But the general consensus does seem to be some bipedal kangaroo type creature. Whatever the fuck you want to make of that, right? And that's okay too. But some people kind of associate it with the Jersey Devil because of like the winged reports that people get. Because a lot of the earlier reports that people were throwing out of seeing this thing, they couldn't get a good look at it because they could see it like jumping through trees and stuff, like hovering through trees, and which again, monkeys also do that. So
True.
could have been monkey.
I don't know. They said it was a Chupacabra.
So, well, you're right. They did, and so it must have been. That's what it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, unless you full on saw it and it looked exactly like that crazy shit that like Madeline sketched, then yeah, it easily could have been something like a monkey. Like if you just see something moving quickly through the trees, why would your first thought be Chupacabra? If a monkey-like creature runs up and bites your dog, why immediately are the first words out of your mouth, "Oh, goddamn Chupacabra bit my dog."
Fucking Chupacabra again.
Right. I'm just gonna blame everything on fucking Chupacabra from now on. If I don't have any other explanation, or even if I do, it's still just gonna be fucking Chupacabra.
Yeah.
It's like, goddamn Chupacabra threw up on the carpet again. Can you believe that? Fuck. Chupacabra.
Start yelling at Emily. She's like, "This is why I quit."
Yeah, right.
You're nuts. Yeah, that's the way, right? That's the way to go about it, for sure. But reports, they didn't completely stop at that point. They just spread. So again, as Madeline's story got told more and more, hitting international news, it just continued to spread across the whole entire world. And at this point, we've have Chupacabra sightings everywhere. Of course, it was a slow build, right? It was Puerto Rico into more Latin America, and then of course into Mexico, into the U.S. I mean, there's a track, we can track it.
Well, we say everywhere, but really, where we have Chupacabra sightings, is mostly in Spanish-speaking areas. Really,
that's a good point. You're right.
Yeah, so like through Florida, through like the American Southwest, amongst Spanish-speaking populations, down into like Mexico, and then from there you get into like Central and South America. But that's the common denominator, and I have some thoughts on that. I don't want to derail everything like just yet, but I think I have a pretty good idea about how this spread and why it is evolving the way that it is. But anyway, Spanish, it has largely spread among Spanish speaking populations.
It is. No, you're right about that. I guess I should say livestock mutilation seems to be prevalent in a lot of places,
Oh,
and
that's everywhere. Yeah.
right in some of those places, they call it chupacabra. So,
Yeah. Sure. That's totally fair.
and we get those reports to this day. When I sit down and I go over the news, for the week for you guys, and I go look at it. I mean, there's always. I mean, I'm sure almost weekly I could share a story about an alleged chupacabra happening somewhere. But of course, nothing more comes out of it, right? No visual sightings for the most part. But there have been some visual modern day sightings. And I don't know, I have one to share, which was interesting, Tobias, because you have one to share, and
Oh, yeah.
they're not the same one. But mine happened in 2021. Should I tell mine first?
Sure.
This is the thing that's going to be super interesting. I thought it was interesting. So in April of 2021, a Bolivian village, okay, a Bolivian village the whole village reported that a UFO came, and some reports say it crashed, some say it landed on purpose. It kind of just depends on who you asked and who witnessed the event at the time. A lot of people observed a craft come down, and as it was coming down, it was, quote, throwing fire, is what they were saying. So it was like throwing off sparks and shit from it. And eventually it touches ground right in the middle of the village and opens up its hatch, and a little creature comes out. And this creature being a roughly 1 foot tall chupacabra, basically. That's what they're describing. And the way that they're describing it physically is to a T to the Madeline Tolentino drawing. So spikes on the back and everything, probably smaller though. And this chupacabra goes around the village and is like terrorizing everybody in the village for hours. This is happening for hours on end while the craft just sits there and does nothing. And this thing is going around. People tried to take picture and video of what was going on, but they were too afraid of the creature. Because it was going around everywhere, so they were hiding out of their houses. Eventually, by nighttime, the creature packs back up into the UFO, okay, and they go and fuck off into the night. Now, of course, the UFO left scorch marks in the grass, right? Like we've seen, right, where it
Sure.
was. And then there was like a local ufologist, and I don't even know if I'd say that much about him, because I've tried to look up more stuff about this guy, who said that he tried to get like the local authorities involved, and they weren't having any of it. Like, they didn't want to interview any of the people. But this story got, for what it's worth, it got pretty big. The news did go out and interview like the local witnesses and stuff like that, and that's exactly what they all described. This whole village having this one collective experience. And it sounds so fucking batshit, but this is one of my favorite stories of modern day. Let me tell you, I love it.
It's great. I love it because what is the fucking point of any of that?
Oh no!
So like it just flies its UFO down, like it flies its craft down, lands, gets out, just goes fucking buck wild, just running around biting people's dogs or whatever, just raising hell, and then it just fucking leaves, and it's just like, all right, whatever, like, fucking like, tips over a table or something on its way out, flips everybody off, and then gets back in its ship and just fucking flies away.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if you just drove up to some fucking like stranger's house, walked in, like took a shit on their carpet, like dumped everything out of their fridge, like kicked their fucking dog, and then we're like, fuck you, and then just left?
Yeah, that's what this thing did. It shit right on their carpet in this little village. I don't, right. What the fuck is, it's my favorite.
That is really fucking fantastic. And that was in Bolivia.
Yes, it was. And so when I saw what you shared, I was very excited. I was like, oh, really?
What is it with Bolivia and Chupacabra? Because, yeah, like I had a sighting that I had covered for my website, like in 2023, also from Bolivia. And this actually was supposed to be of a video that somebody had managed to capture of a local chupacabra that was captured via drone. This was in Oruro, Bolivia, which I'm not saying that again. So it's, that was the one time. Anyway, so, okay. reportedly, there was a string of livestock deaths in June of 2023 in this town in Bolivia. So it was a mixture of cows, llamas, and alpacas that were all reportedly found dead with most of their blood drained. And so this video was shot by local filmmaker Carla Flores and then sent to Telemundo. I mean, Telemundo is a pretty big, network, right? And I've watched the video. I assume you've watched it. It kind of just looks like a dog to me. But the way it's described, they're like, well, it looks like a dog, but it has a hump towards the back. And looking at the images, it has the same positioning that a chupacabra has, which naturally I'm like, okay, thanks, chupacabra expert, for filling us in on what the positioning of a fucking chupacabra is, since nobody has ever, actually proven they exist or that they've ever really seen one. But I guess you're the fucking expert. So awesome. Thanks for that. But, right? Just like, come fuck off with that shit. Anyway, the point is, though, that I have no doubt that something was going on in this village because animals were really dying. Like, livestock were really dying. And so at the time, like, farmers were seeking help, like, to try to track down whatever may be responsible for the deaths of their livestock. I mean, that's their livelihood, right? And they were taking extra precautions, like setting up more lighting at night, putting up barbed wire to try to, like, protect their animals. And they even, obviously got the government involved. Like, they wanted the authorities to do something. And so there's this government official in the town of Cañapata. And, he basically gave the normal government line of everybody calm down. Like, the worst thing we can do right now is panic. Nobody should nobody should jump to any conclusions, yada, yada, yada. And as far as I know, like, that was the end of it. Like, that's as far as it went. So presumably, like you see so often in these livestock mutilation or chupacabra cases, like, there's this rash of livestock deaths, and then it's just over, right? And everything goes back to normal until the next time this happens, probably somewhere else. What's also interesting, that wasn't even the only chupacabra attack that month. So in southern Guatemala, like the municipality of Chimaltenango, there were people blaming chupacabra, saying that it killed a whole flock of, like, turkeys, ducks, and chickens, having drained them of blood. So here's a quote from one woman who's interviewed by Guata Vision. We have many opinions because some neighbors say that it could be the chupacabra, while others say that during the night they have heard what seems to be meowing and have seen a shape of a wolf-like animal at night. So that opens the possibility of some kind of, mundane animal. Like, there are cats in Guatemala that will kill your fucking livestock if your livestock are, chickens and ducks and shit, right? There actually is, oh boy, I can't remember what it's called, but there is, like, a sizable cat that is native to that area that absolutely, could have killed chickens and ducks and whatnot. Oh no, I found it. It's the jaguarundus, which is which is a native animal. So anyway, and I don't probably, if it's a cat, yeah, probably.
Yeah. That's probably.
They are just adorable little murderers,
All of them, yeah, every one of them.
Yeah.
If I could think of a way to go, it'd be my cat,
Right? But I mean, and this is 2023, so this is when there's all kinds of livestock mutilations going on all over the place. Like that same year in April, authorities in Texas here in the US were investigating several cattle mutilation incidents in which cattle had their tongues and the skin around their mouths removed. And there was reportedly no blood found at any of the scenes, so there was that exsanguination that is so often reported, and of course, those incidents were similar to the other strings of cattle mutilations that we were hearing about in Oregon in 2019, and then again in 2021. There's also an interesting case of cattle mutilation that I covered in 2019 in Florida, where a couple had seen strange lights hovering over a pasture near Ocala, and then later found a cow that had some of its body parts seemingly cleanly removed. So yeah, it was a whole thing from like 2019 to 2023 or so. Like those several years of just livestock mutilations, and then depending on where you were, people blaming them on different things. Apparently, if you're in Bolivia, it's Chupacabra. If you're somewhere else, then, it's something else. It's whatever your local folklore is. But yeah, fuck. Stop killing livestock.
It's ridiculous. Like I said, they're expensive, but we kill them and eat them all the time. So who are we to judge? I don't kill them, but
there's a point, to doing that, and you should try to do it humanely and give them a good life. But yeah, we're not just like killing them and then leaving them to rot in the sun, which is a total waste.
Yeah, that's a good point. Unless you're making jerky, that's kind of what you're doing, right?
I do love jerky. No, that's not how you make jerky, but I do love jerky, and I eat it almost every day.
Almost every day. Wow.
Yeah. It's a really easy source of like quick protein. Cause you can, a few servings of like, beef jerky. And I know it's high in sodium, so whatever, just save it. Whoever is listening to this judging my sodium intake through the amount of jerky I eat. But like, it is like a relatively like cheap, good source of protein where it's not particularly calorie dense either. So you can eat like five servings of beef jerky, and it's a couple hundred calories, and you're getting like 50 grams of protein. So,
and it's so chewy. You're like, man, this is it takes you forever to eat. Your jaw gets tired, and you're like, I'm done with this.
That's right. It's like a workout for your jaw. It's like your jaw is getting pumped.
Yes. So you gotta cut that, carve that jawline. That's what people do. No, I think it was really interesting that we both had stories out of Bolivia that were unrelated, or could be related. Probably unrelated though. Mine, the creature went back to the ship and they took off. I don't know where they went, but they left. So maybe they were scouting the place.
Maybe.
Are there any cattle here? Any livestock? And the villagers were like, no, go away. And that's why he was so pissed off. He's like, wow, fuck you. Get some fucking goats in this bitch. Terrorizing.
He's just so mad there's no goats. It's like, do you have any fucking idea how far I flew to get here? And you don't even have a goat?
You don't even have one. I don't know. I don't know what the story is there, the correlation. The correlation seems to be just, again, Spanish-speaking countries, so who knows? But let's get into some speculation. Okay. Let's not do speculation. Let's talk about the dogs.
What about the dogs?
The
mangy dogs?
Yeah, let's talk about the mangy dogs.
Sure. Well, it's connected. I think this is connected to how the legend has spread. So it seems like Chupacabra specifically, if you're interested in folklore in action and how knowledge is spread sort of through traditional means, that is to say word of mouth, I think the Chupacabra is a fascinating, like modern day case study in that it seemed to have spread through Spanish-speaking populations, largely through word of mouth, like people telling stories about this Chupacabra monster. And so I think what you're seeing then is this, all right, well, I should say a set of phenomena that is unrelated to the original phenomenon that inspired the chupacabra, but is being interpreted through this folkloric lens amongst Spanish-speaking populations as chupacabra, because of the power of this story, right? Because the supposed existence of this monster provides a convenient explanation for some kind of inexplicable event. And we see that in this field time and time again, right? Like, people will provide narratives for their experiences based on their own understanding of different stories, different cultural influences. So it's not surprising to me that as this story spread, and how it spread has led to it being used as an explanation for all of these sort of otherwise seemingly disparate phenomena amongst these populations, right? So, it makes perfect sense to me that you've got livestock mutilation that is far more similar to what we would associate with like cattle mutilation, which is much more largely associated with UFO phenomenon here, but is being explained in Bolivia as a chupacabra attack, despite the fact that the livestock wounds that you're seeing have much more in common with that, and almost nothing in common with the puncture wounds and exsanguination that was being reported in Puerto Rico. And it also doesn't surprise me then that when you get into like the southwestern United States, people will see these frankly mangy dogs or coyotes, some kind of canine with mange, and they look weird, and it's sad because I love dogs, even like wild dogs, like coyotes, wolves, like they're all great. And so it's sad when they have mange, because that obviously fucks them up, and then they can end up dying because they need their fur. Anyway, they look real weird when they have mange, and if there is plentiful prey elsewhere, most wild animals don't necessarily want to have to come in close proximity to humans to get food. And so you'll see these mangy animals who aren't maybe as capable of taking care of themselves, and they start scrounging around where people live, right? Where humans live. I just did that thing that really irritates me that I mentioned before. So yeah, anyway, like they start scrounging around where we live. And so we start seeing them more. And people go, oh, what the fuck is that weird looking thing? Cause it's, again, they look weird. Any kind of canid with mange is going to look weird.
Yeah.
And so, like we do, we attached a fucking story to it. And so people had some idea of what a chupacabra was supposed to be based on stories they had heard. And, it wouldn't take much for some kind of mangy dog or coyote or something killing somebody's livestock before somebody was like, oh, well, shit, that's a chupacabra. I've heard of that. Chupacabra, they kill livestock, right? Because these people aren't researchers. They're not intimately familiar with the details of the 1995 Puerto Rican fucking chupacabra flap, That's just how stories spread. I don't know.
Well, and let's be real, they were already doing that in 1995. Like, we got the monkey guy, right? A lot of people described it as kind of monkey-like. A lot of people described it with wings. It was just kind of, it didn't, Chupacabra, it's not like we've covered this. It's not like Chupacabra means reptilian creature or canine creature. It means goat sucker. So if you're
Right.
sucking off goats, you're a Chupacabra.
Oh man.
That's the way.
There's so many jokes, so many mean jokes I could have made about so many people, but I didn't.
Accusing
And I want
people.
I want people to recognize that I didn't make those jokes.
Not this time. Maybe on the Patreon.
Not this time.
Um,
Not today, Satan.
not today, Satan. You gotta that'll be behind the paywall.
Yeah.
A list of chupacabras.
Exactly.
But no, really, I mean that is what it is. It's not so much in the description and stuff, which other creatures kind of more take on the moniker of what they look like. The chupacabra, that is not the case. It is just whatever the fuck this thing is that tends to kill their livestock by a very specific means of attack. And so again, it was months before anybody got and before they landed a description. And in that time, you had all these wildly different stories about what people were seeing and whether or not it's because it was fake or whether or not it's because they barely saw it, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's not. I mean, this is part of the lore for it to be inconsistent. I don't like the canine chupacabra, but the reason why I don't like it is because there's no mystery to it. Like, they are animals with mange. Like, that's what they
Right.
are. I've come across other researchers who, swear up and down that these mangy creatures are, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, just that's what they are,
Yeah.
that they are their own species, that this is some brand new hybrid of canine that we haven't discovered and blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that.
Well, how the fuck is it then? And this always irritates me. Like, that's cool, prove it, because literally
Right.
every single one that ever gets caught, like, is a normal animal with fucking
right.
mange.
Yeah.
And there have been claims to the contrary, none of which, and this is going to come as a surprise to you, I'm sure, none of which have ever been fucking scientifically verified ever.
Ever.
I know, so weird.
That never happens, literally. Like, this is the first time that's ever happened in this community.
I'm so surprised and disappointed, because normally in cryptozoology, when people make wild fucking claims about like genetic proof of an undiscovered species, it pans out and then we have a new species. But this time it's such a letdown because that fucking proof just never materialized. So weird.
Just never does. When there are people that have claimed to have shot and killed chupacabras, there's a lady who had one like taxidermied and she's had it DNA tested, and she doesn't accept the results of those DNA tests. They come back canine, but because it was some type of mutt that up until modern day hadn't really pinpointed what kind of mutt it was. So obviously it's its own species. I think she should try again. We got pretty advanced DNA testing out there for dogs now. So,
we've had our dogs tested. Emily was really curious, and so we went and got it done, and so we know like what mixture of each breed they have, which is interesting because like Bullet doesn't look at all like any of the breeds that he is. So
yeah,
I don't know what happened there.
Like his majority. I know my mom spent a lot of money on her dog. She has 2 mini Australian Shepherds, and the one was discounted. He was a clearance dog because he's not like show ready, and so
who gives a shit?
He's right. So he's got a lot of issues. Well, when she DNA tested them, they're not from the same litter. You can't have litter mates with dogs. It's a thing. When she had them DNA tested, it's funny because the one dog, Pepper, he's the favorite. Everybody loves him because he looks great. Come to find out, there's like no Australian Shepherd. He's mostly Dalmatian. And the other dog, the Copper, the goofy one, who nobody wanted, he is more Australian Shepherd than Pepper is. And it's so crazy how that works.
It is crazy. I don't know. People don't want to hear my opinion on dog shows. I think all that shit's stupid.
Yeah.
I think dogs are wonderful companion animals. I mean, when I have a dog, I don't give a shit. I exclusively get fucking rescue mutts because they make great fucking companion animals and they need and deserve love as much as anybody. So that's what we do. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Boy, that was a fun digression. So Chupacabra bit a monkey, I heard. Or wait.
Yeah. One time it bit a monkey that had no tail. It's,
Shit.
no,
Chupacabra monkey fight.
but again, that's my issue with it, and I think that's a lot of. I'm not the only person that doesn't like the canine chupacabra. Okay, let's be fucking honest. I know that because you all talked about it today when I posted it on social media.
Yeah, it's the
Other
worst
people don't like
Chupacabra.
it. Right, it's the worst one, and just because there's no mystery to it, and it's not fun, and it didn't come out of a spaceship and terrorize a village in Bolivia. Fuck that.
Yeah.
That's you can't compete with that, and stop trying. We just need to call it something else, and people have tried to call it something else, and it'll never take off. But whatever, here we are. A
We'll
blue
call it
dog is another thing.
the Southwestern not a mystery.
Not a mystery. How about we just call it dog with mange, because that's what it is.
I know.
Unless it's
Well,
fox with
sometimes
mange.
they're coyotes,
Yeah, coyote with mange or fox with mange.
Yeah, it's the point is it's some kind of canine species.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So getting back into the origins of the original, the OG weird reptile-ish spiny creature chupacabra. What the fuck was going on? I mean, at the end of the day, people's livestock were being killed. Like, that's a fact, right? We know that.
Right.
We can verify that. We know that was happening. So what was killing all these things? Well, I mean, again, it just kind of goes back to any number of explanations you can pick and choose from the cattle mutilation category. There's so many. These people happen to think it was a weird creature, and it certainly could have been some type of animal. Nobody is really downplaying that it's not. The pinprick wounds could definitely be bite marks. Like, that's not weird or anything. Like, that's what teeth do. They puncture.
Well, like certain teeth, yeah. I mean, if you have to have, they have to be designed to do that. But yes, because otherwise, like you would expect, like say if you bite down on an apple or something, and then like release and look at the apple, like you can see the sort of like signature bite mark of human teeth, and it's not like vampire puncture wounds. You know what I mean? Even like a dog bite, same thing. Right. You're not going to get like a couple of clean puncture wounds. It's got to be something that's designed to do that specifically. And there aren't a ton of animals like that, but I mean, they do exist. So, I
think the
couldn't
only
rule
way
it out, I guess.
That explanation could work is if details were exaggerated, which again, we've never seen that happen here ever.
Never.
Not once.
Not ever. How dare you?
But let's take it at face value, and let's say that they weren't. Let's say that in that first instant, all 8 of those goats had these weird whether you pick the neck one or you pick the chest one, and these weird puncture marks on them. That is unusual. Those are unusual circumstances where if you're going to assume it's an animal, then you're telling me that the animal went and bit down on these goats in the same fucking spot repeatedly and did nothing further.
Right.
And that was it, and then left. What killed them exactly within a short time frame? Because while these animals are kind of left to their own devices, they're not. You don't go a day without seeing your goats. Like, it wasn't like they were sitting there for a week, right? It was overnight. What could have killed them all then? It wasn't like sepsis or anything like that. Well, another explanation that's kind of tied to the animal explanation is that at the time, this particular area of Puerto Rico was going through a very extreme drought. And the extreme drought was actually what was killing the animals. And so they're, I guess, dying at the exact same time. And then it could have been that maybe they got attacked by an animal and just the shock of the whole situation killed them from some type of cardiac event. Or it could be that they had died and then the puncture wounds just don't really matter because it's some weird decomp process, because we all know that's how decomposition works, is by small puncture wounds of the skin. It's not, but that's what they say. So that one can kind of go hand in hand with a lot of different explanations. The drought, the animals aren't getting enough water, and they are suffering, I guess, on the same day. Well, each time. I'm trying.
I mean, I guess. Well, I mean, animal mutilations, livestock mutilations. I mean, they are a modern mystery. Like they are a mystery, very much of our time. And the explanations floated around are usually like uh, illness is the big one, and then the
Yeah.
wounds being caused by like later predation by scavengers. So if you're talking like livestock mutilation in the U.S., what people will say is that the animals will die of some kind of illness, and then like coyotes or something will find them, and they'll eat all of the soft tissue. So as gross as this is, if a coyote finds a dead body, it is going to eat it asshole first.
Yeah.
That is true. That's true fact. So it'll eat it from the inside out, going through the butt. And so like that's been the explanation given by skeptics largely, right? Like we don't know that that's what's happening. We don't have proof of that. But it is a convenient explanation that people love to fall back on, when the reality of the situation to me is far stranger, because so often what we've got are concurrent phenomena in livestock mutilations and in UFO sightings. I mean, and it didn't start with Chupacabra in '95, even with
No.
the puncture wounds and exsanguination. In fact, we had the vampire of Mocha in Puerto Rico in 1975, where it was basically the same thing, and people were seeing UFOs at the same time. But the newspapers dubbed it a vampire, rather than making up a brand new word like fucking chupacabra,
Right. Yeah.
And of course, livestock mutilations in the U.S. and other places go back even like farther than that. So it's a mystery. It really is, and it's one of those mysteries to me where like the only people who say that it isn't, they have an angle. They're selling something, whether that's what they think is the only reasonable scientific explanation, or some kind of voodoo bullshit. But at the end of the day, we don't really know. It's just something we have to sit with, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a mix of everything, and for some reason people write that off all the time, and I don't know why. Is it possible that there was some strange creature doing whatever it was doing, whether it was sucking blood because that's what it lived off of, or it was, um, an intelligent being that was conducting some experiment? You know, I don't know. I can't tell you that. I fucking haven't talked to the chupacabra and asked him. I will though one day. But I think it's that mixed with these reports of livestock mutilations that sometimes were exaggerated, mixed with reports of people seeing strange creatures that they can't quite identify because they're not used to seeing them, or because they have an illness, maybe like mange, and so it looks weird. Mixed with this poor Madeline woman who did, I think, encountered something genuinely fucking bizarre, whether it was related, because she didn't see it killing a goat or anything.
Right.
This motherfucker was just at her house chilling twice, right? So, her story just happened to be demographically close to the area. Is all connected at all, or just, circumstances make it seem like it's connected? I don't know. But I think it's a mixture of all of those things, alongside some very prosaic explanations with some woo explanations. Why not? Why not
Sure.
all of it?
Well, I agree. I think that's very insightful. Like there is never one blanket explanation that works for every claimed instance of any phenomenon. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's spot on. I think that there probably is a mixture of truly unexplained experiences, experiences that people have related authentically that they just simply don't understand. And yeah, and with that is always going to come misidentifications, is always going to come hoaxes. Um, and there's just nothing we can do about it. But it is kind of our job to try to provide that nuance to tell the difference between those separate instances, because yeah, I mean, one of the things that makes so many of the things that we study so incredible to most people is that nobody is bothering. I shouldn't say nobody, but like not enough people bother to separate the wheat from the chaff here. Not enough people take the time to go, okay, well, a monkey for sure bit that dude's dog. That wasn't fucking Chupacabra. But at the same time, that's like this shit that this lady and her family experienced. We don't know what the fuck that was, but it wasn't a goddamn monkey, you know? And so
Right.
if you don't think she was making it up and we don't have proof that she was, then what are we left with? Well, we're left with a fucking mystery, and they're not all equal. So
No, they're not. And right. And what the fuck's up with the? I can't get over the slime situation. Like, what's that about? I don't even get it.
Chupacabra fuck shit up. That's what they do. They just show up. They just fuck everything up.
You said you went to college with them, so I believe that probably is true.
Terrible
I believe
roommate.
that you would know. Ooh, yeah, I bet. Sliming all over the place, leaving this rancid meat wherever.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Ripping up your
Bit my
teddy
dog.
bears. Right,
Fuck
biting
yeah.
your dog. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if we ever solve this mystery. I'm gonna tell you right now, those people in that Bolivian village, I'm gonna say that happened because I fucking want it to have happened so bad.
Sure. Well, I mean, again, like the thing is, I have no doubt that the livestock deaths are real, and I have no doubt that a good number of people are mystified by those events, and I do find it very strange and compelling how often UFO sightings are reported in the same area. So there very well could be something there, some connection, something strange happening. Because of course, people who push back on the predation hypothesis to explain livestock mutilation will note that, like, you don't find the mess that you would expect. Like when coyotes tear apart like some cadaver they have found, right? Like if they find the body of an animal, and they're going to eat it, yeah, they might start by like, eating, like tearing their insides out through their fucking butt first, but like they dismember the shit out of it and they tear it to pieces, and like you'll find the bones of it scattered to the four winds because they're not leaving any food there. They're not just like, well, I ate his butthole, I'm full, time to go. Like time to go. All right. Oh, I'm chock full of butthole. No, like they eat the whole thing and they eat the shit out of it and they tear it apart when they're doing it. So you would expect to find more mess, right? And we're not finding that mess. And I understand that if you leave something like that in nature long enough, nature will clean it up. So there are insects and things that will take care of blood on nearby plants and such. And yeah, sure, fine. I totally get that. And flies also lay their eggs in soft tissue, and so that might explain some other like instances of missing soft tissue in like tongues and around the mouth or something. And those are also targets for predation from scavengers. But the amount of time that's passing between death and discovery isn't enough for nature to have just cleaned this up all on its own,
No.
and that's the thing I keep going back to. If something killed your livestock the night before and you find it that morning, there should still be a mess, and there's not. And there's not a sign of a struggle. It's just fucking weird, because, and this is another thing that we've talked about before, is the elitist attitude that people have where they're like, oh, rural people are dumb as shit.
Yep.
And they don't understand what's in their environment, as though all of these cattle farmers and everybody else with all this livestock never found one of their fucking livestock dead before and had never seen what it looks like when either it's killed by a predator or dies some other way and scavengers find it, as though that's just brand fucking new. And oh my God, thank God the college boy in the ivory tower could tell me how stupid I was. Eat shit, these people know, like, farmers have seen that shit before. And so if that's what was happening, they know what that looks like, and I'm not saying that, yeah, in every population of people, there's going to be some dummies. Like, that's fine. Sure. I get it. There'll probably be some liars too, but there's too many, there's too many people involved here, too many people who do this for a living and should have seen that shit before, for it to make sense for me to just want to dismiss it as though they aren't experts in the environment that they spend every single day in and rely on for their fucking livelihood. Like, that shit's crazy.
Well, and people really downplay it. Like, okay, so listen, person, you're telling me that you think a cow dies in pasture and that the farmer then goes and fucking lifts up that 700-pound cow and fucking goes and buries it somewhere? Like, no, they don't. They live on a farm. They just leave that shit there until it decomposes enough for them to move. Come on now. They absolutely know what this shit looks like because they'll just have dead cows laying around. It does happen. Well, I think they might try to block them off from their,
Yeah, you can't just straight up leave it there without doing anything. But I get what you're saying, and right. Yes, the reality of the situation is, again, they're familiar with this shit. They know what it looks like.
Right. They don't have to move a fucking cow. They're not going to. That's just what it is. And so,
right, they are super heavy.
They are, right. They're almost Tobias, you were kind of new to the show when the fucking cow saga was happening locally. You probably don't remember any of that, do you?
Was it the cow did out, like the cow body that was just on the side of the road?
Yeah. This is fucking chilling on the highway, yeah. And they came and the fucking state highway patrol put a sticker on it requesting that they tow their cow. Like, it's ridiculous.
That's hilarious. I can't believe people didn't just show up right away and start taking cuts of meat.
Oh my God. People were showing up, and that was dangerous because people would fucking stop on the side of the road, take pictures with a dead cow, and it was just a dead cow chilling on the side of the highway in the middle of the fucking suburbs. It was crazy.
So dumb. All right.
Anyway.
Keep it classy, Ohio.
Took them a week to move it. It was not, because they couldn't find anybody to move it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the city's like, I don't want to fucking pay for that, I'm sure.
We called it everybody because it was off the slaughter. It escaped from the truck, and then they had to shoot it because it's running around on the highway. And it's like, man, that fucking sucks. So it got dubbed Murumbe after Harambe the.
Right. Yeah. Dick's out for Murumbe.
For Murumbe, yeah. And so
that's what we're doing. I mean, really, we're just we're always looking for an excuse to whip it out. So I get just as a society. I didn't mean me in particular.
Just anytime there's an opportunity.
Right.
I'll never forget you, Murumbe. That's the point. But anyway, so as we were saying, exactly, these people aren't dumb. They know what this decomposition process looks like, and except for maybe the monkey guy, that was kind of silly. But it's like, I mean, you just saw a monkey bite his
right
bone.
Again. That's what we're talking about. That's the good point that you brought up. There is going to be a mixture of misidentifications and things in all of this, and the trick is learning how to recognize those. So yeah, if you just got a quick glimpse of something moving through the trees and you live someplace where fucking monkeys live, then yeah, maybe think monkeys before Chupacabra.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about livestock mutilations where the people, again, who deal with these animals day in and day out their whole lives as their fucking means of survival and live in this environment, again, that they also work in day in and day out. And your explanation for that is that they're just suddenly too stupid to know what's in their environment and recognize something that they should have seen tons of times before. Well, get fucked with that. Like, that's just lazy.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I think too many people write off the chupacabra. We shouldn't do that. Again, there are still modern day sightings of the classic chupacabra, not just the mangy dog. It's interesting. I know I slept on it I didn't get really interested in it until the Bolivian village story popped up and I covered it on the news for the show. And I was like, well, are UFOs attributed to Chupacabra? And they are, and I didn't know that at the time. So it is still.
You should have been born earlier.
I know, right? Well, fuck me.
Well, because by the time you were old enough to know, the Chupacabra sucked.
I know.
You didn't get all the good '90s Chupacabra, which is what you want.
I missed out on the good old fashioned Chupacabra.
Right.
But no, I'm glad we covered it because it gave me an excuse to cover something which is most of the time why I do the show, something that I'll never be able to personally investigate because I'm in Ohio in the United States. So
I'm shocked that there has not been a Chupacabra sighting in Ohio.
Oh, I'm sure there has.
Totally honest.
Let's be real. It's
only a matter of time now. Yeah.
Someone's going to report one now. It's like, I seen it.
Good. As long as they say it like that, I'll believe them.
They have to say they synced it in order for it to be valid.
Be like, well, you seem like an honest person. So if you say you synced it, then you synced it.
Then you synced it. Any final thoughts on the Chupacabra mystery?
Oh, boy. I think this is one of those where if I could ask people to take one thing away from it, it would be recognizing the need for nuance in the examination of these mysteries. We can't just go looking for blanket explanations to explain every instance of a reported phenomenon, because the reality of it is, even when there is a true mystery present, not every single reported case is going to represent that mystery. So it's important, of course, to stay open-minded, but not so open-minded that your brains fall out.
I think that is perfectly said. Nuance. That is the word of the day, the word of your lifetime. And you can pretty much consider nuance in every situation that you ever come across. But this is definitely one of those that needs it. So I agree with that. Yeah, I believe in you, Chupacabra. I said it. And with that being said, we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.